Can you hear me?
I can, and I believe we are live, Auntie.
We can't be.
Yes,
We live right now.
we are. The red, the red light.
There we go. The commercial doing.
Ah,
Mm. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Sandy Bailey Gwynn, Foundations for Living, where we bring strength transformation to students, families, and communities through inspiration and education. And today is a good day to be alive. Come on, let me hear it. Today is a good day to be alive. If you woke up this morning, there was purpose for somebody to touch you and said, breathe, my child. So I want you to take this moment, as a friend of mine does, Titan Capri. He said, let's breathe, breathe. I'm on the count of three. We're going to breathe in, okay? 1, 2, 3. Let's release. Count one more time. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. Breathe out. Last time. 1, 2, 3. And breathe out. You feel that? You
yes,
couldn't do it by yourself. Daniel, you couldn't do it by yourself. There had to be a higher power that
yeah.
has allowed you to breathe that. And today I'm excited that he has looked upon us and said, today is your day. I'm excited because this is the first day that we're getting ready to start a whole month of series. It's a 4 Thursdays out of the month of December called Are You Valuable to the Community? And what it stands for, what my purpose and my goal to the premise is that there are people out there in the nation, in the world, that have been doing things in the community and people are overlooked. People don't really see it. They may see it, but they don't bring attention to it. So I began preaching a series about 2 months ago, and the sermon title was Are You Valuable to the Community? And God began to open that up to show me that there's so many pockets of people that are doing things, not just in the pandemic, not just in the pandemic, but there are things that are going on prior to. Don't teach me how to ride a bicycle now. I need to know how to ride a bicycle before today. And Daniel has been riding bicycles, fixing bicycles, teaching people how to ride bicycles since 2017. And I call him my nephew. I haven't known Daniel long. I think it's coming up a year that
Yeah,
we met.
it's been a year, but I feel like we've connected because of like so one, you have such from the first time that I saw you and also Auntie Kimberly, you had such a warm and inviting spirit and that really is what drew me to you and I felt like made us connect with each other outside of some other amazing things. We both have a love for the country and
Yeah.
country living and country food and all things country. And then we also connect as well on the level of faith and
Right.
spirituality.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
So I call you nephew. And there are a couple of young men that I call nephew. And I understand that when you call me auntie, I take that personal. I take that to a level as I have literally blood connection to you. And sometimes I'm learning that blood isn't always thicker than water. sometimes it's the one that has been brought to you
Mhm.
instead of born from you.
Yeah. You know, I think
And
yeah, I think family I think the whole word around family is something that many individuals are learning has different meanings.
mhm,
There's your blood or your biological family, but there's also your chosen family. And
absolutely.
I think the beauty is that for many of us, um, in absence of our biological family, the universe, our higher power, God has blessed us with individuals to be part of our chosen family who pour into us, who lift us up, who sometimes chastise us as well,
Absolutely.
but also pour love upon us too. So I think that's beautiful. So I'm
And
glad to have you as being part of my chosen family.
that's what's up. That's what's up. So today I have chosen you to start this off, to kick it off. We
Mhm.
know that December the 1st was World HIV Awareness, World AIDS Day.
Yep.
And I just thought it was very fitting since you work in the community of HIV, the
Mhm.
restoration, the uplifting, the building up down in Florida. I just thought it would be perfect that you would be the one that kicked us off. So we talked a little bit about how we know each other. We actually met, what people don't know, we actually met at Emory University. They have a Compass initiative, which is funded by Gilead. And
Yes.
you begin to know that a lot of my nephews and people that I work with came from that gathering, that cohort that only God knew who we needed at the time that we needed. So that's how we met. But who is Daniel Downer? Who is Daniel? Where is he from? How did he start? And where he is now? Who are you?
Yeah, so I have like this little tagline that I always use when describing myself as being Black, queer, and Southern. So Daniel, I'm unapologetically Black, unapologetically queer, and definitely unapologetically Southern. But also, besides that, I show up in so many different ways in so many different forms for people in and out of community. But I also, show up as a believer, right? As an activist, as an agitator of sorts, in a good way, a civil agitator or civic agitator, but then also as a voice to individuals who sometimes don't feel that they have a voice,
Right.
or are told that their voice doesn't matter, or doesn't hold weight, or doesn't hold value. And so
Mhm.
I embody all of those things. And I hail from the great state of Florida, the Sunshine State. There are very few things to be proud about
In
when
Florida.
you're in Florida, but one of those things to be proud about is Daniel J. Downer.
I hear you, boy.
So yes, I hail from Florida, Orlando in particular, which is an amazing, beautiful, vibrant community that really has molded me and shaped me into the young man that I am, and so grateful to hail from there, and the lived experiences that I've had while hailing from Orlando, Florida. I forgot you asked me something else.
So
It's so hard
they,
to do the question and answer with you because it almost feels like we are sitting at the kitchen
and
table.
that's what I want. That
We got
that
some good, some good all sweet tea. See, I don't have my sweet tea. And
and
we
y'all
got
drink
some
water.
good
Y'all new breed drink water. We still drink diabetical tea up in here.
That's
The
okay.
question I wanted to say, when you say country, you are very fond, even though they're not here with us, your grandparents.
Yes.
Um, and you do have an old soul. And we'll talk about the good stuff, but
Uh-huh.
to me, I want people to know how you have evolved and having a passion for people. And it actually has to start from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your grandparents and the country living and the fact that you still go back to that farm.
Yes. So, my grandparents, they really mean the world to me. They basically they raised me. and loved on me and really um, were probably one of the brightest spots in my early life. And so learning so much from them, so many of the skills that I have now, the way that I view the world, the way that I lead. And so uh, they they were uh, they were a rambunctious but grounded couple that hailed from the deep South. My both of them had roots that led back to South Carolina, and
Wow.
had a love for the land from the very beginning. My grandfather comes from a long line of farmers in his family, and so growing up, I had a love for the outdoors. That was kind of like one of my fun things to do was to go to the farm with them and run up and down the rows of collards and cabbage and watermelon and we used to, my grandfather used to put out the traps for, possums and raccoons and all types of things. And being little and seeing them in the trap and, trying to agitate them and him telling me to stop. But there were so many fond memories. And I think what I always talk about country living, and what I love about it is it was so simple. They were really, really,
Mm,
they were really, really simple
okay.
people. Even with them being simple people, there was such um, a joy and so much life
And that.
in that and in that space, and the things like I said that they taught me about, always being there to help others, always,
So stay
always
right there. Stay
others.
right there.
Mhm.
We're gonna switch a little bit, but I want to recognize we got Ian on the line. He says hello everybody. We have Vernus, hey baby. We have Eddie Enrico Johnson. Mr. Johnson is on the line, shouting out from Fort Lauderdale. Thank y'all for joining us. Like and share because we're getting ready to get into some deeper waters right now. So we know that you come from a simple background, but a very special background, a very close knit family. So that leads me to the question of who, what is Bros in Convo Initiative? And why is it so important to you? Seeing how you are an introvert. You are that person. What people don't know that even though you
Yeah.
have a big smile, a big passion, what they don't know about you is that you're very much a close in, I can do this by myself person. So talk
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. So, Bros and Combo. Ooh, where do I begin? I think I always say that I felt like Bros and Combo was birthed from my own personal experience of like working and being part of community in the HIV space and recognizing, in particular, in Central Florida, that there really wasn't a brave and safe space for Black, queer, bisexual, and same gender loving men, regardless of their status, to come together and to really have a conversation about how they could be healthy. But not only that, but be able to connect to resources that were out there.
Gotcha.
Right. A lot of times there are all these different resources that are available, but they don't reach the ears of the individuals that need it. And so I had been seeing that and I had been thinking that in my head and really wanting to find a way to really kind of like jumpstart and activate that. And was so blessed to come into the fellowship of two amazing individuals, Marvell L. Terry II, who at that time was over the HIV and Health Equity Program at the Human Rights Campaign, and Noelle Gordon as well, who was co-managing it. And I was a part of a fellowship program that really allowed me to kind of take Bros and Combo from my head to my
Mm,
mouth to the paper and through a micro grant into reality. And really, the concept of Bros and Convo is really, really simple. As Black and Brown folk, we know how important conversation around kitchen tables or a
Yeah.
good meal is. And so that initially really was the concept of if we could get young men together over a meal to kind of talk, but then also kind of learn from one another different things, like some magic could happen. And so we received a micro grant for 6 months. It was a program at the time. It wasn't an organization. But as we began to go month after month, there was just so much magic that was happening in that space. There were young men who had never uh, gotten tested for HIV, who got tested
Mm.
and went on to get on to PrEP. There were young men who got tested, who found out that they were living with HIV, but didn't feel beaten or discouraged and have gone on to become undetectable and virally suppressed.
Amen.
There were young men who realized that they wanted to be a part of this work and be advocates and activists in their own way and have gone on, to do amazing things.
How
And
long
so,
have y'all I think you was tell me how long has this started to where you are now? And I hate to interrupt, but it's so
no,
much I want to talk about. So
yes,
you started when? When did this come to
started.
fruition?
So we actually had our first session in September of 2017. And so we are 3 years, 3 years and some months, 3 years and some months. Yep, 3 years and some months. Yeah.
From in your head to out
And
of your mouth on
mhm,
paper to
yep,
where we are.
to where we are today. Yes.
So it can be done.
It can be done. It's an amazing journey, and I really am so blessed because this creating an organization it's not easy for anyone, but it's especially not easy for Black and Brown folk. We typically our organizations are under resourced. We do not have the access to various resources that our white contemporaries or peers may have, and so to make it past a year is a blessing. To make it past two is a double blessing. To make it to three is a triple blessing, and I'm just so thankful. I'm so thankful and grateful, and I can't take the credit for it. I think the universe and God has really blessed me, but then I also think the community has really been the driving
Right.
force behind the success because they recognize and they realize that they are the priority. Everything about Bros and Convo is driven by really two principles: meaningful involvement of the people in the communities that we serve,
That's it.
and greater involvement of the people in the communities that we serve. And so there's nothing about Bros and Convo um, that has not been blessed in a way of sorts by community. Whether it's the promotional material that we're putting out, whether it's the sessions that we are building, whether it is the way that we are trying to engage and mobilize community. Community are what we call our stakeholders, because
Right.
honestly, without community, we will never be successful.
Successful. You have to have the community to buy in. And once
Definitely,
they buy in and they trust you, they find that you're a help and not a hindrance, nor definitely not a hurt.
yeah,
You don't have to do anything else.
yeah,
They will be the mouthpiece for you. And
yeah,
that's the good thing about it, because sometimes we don't have to say anything. It's an old song that the saints used to say, "May the work I've done speak for me."
yes, yes, yes.
So it's definitely speaking for you and speaking loudly. Let's talk about today.
Mhm.
We know we have COVID-19
Yeah.
running rampant.
Mhm.
What were y'all doing to protect your community before the pandemic? Tell us some of the things, because we have listening audience want
Mhm.
to know how you still making it. Some people are actually closing up shop, Daniel, because they were not either necessarily prepared or prepared for the new now and prepared to shift. What were you doing prior that has made you sustainable today?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that one of the biggest lessons that I learned from one of my mentors, and I'm so grateful and thankful to have so many mentors from so many different spectrums who have poured into me and have guided me. One of the very first things that I remember one of my mentors saying is, you want to always approach things from like, how can this be sustainable? How can I sustain this? And so part of the work that we did was we had in place some type of plan, contingency plan around an emergency. Now, it wasn't 100% foolproof because we didn't really think about COVID. I don't think anybody think about it, but we did have a contingency plan in place. If there was for an extended period of time, there needed to be a modification of services, that there needed to be some type of in the gap services for community members. And so that kind of really helped us in the beginning because we had a little bit of a piggy bank to where we could, to where we could be able to draw from. And I think that really helped set the foundation for us being able to kind of like fray the very beginning of
Mhm.
that COVID storm.
What are you doing
Mhm.
as of right now to protect the people that are still coming in that are needing resources?
Yeah, definitely. So we've really been focusing and rallying around the recommendations, not only from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, but also the Florida Department of Health. And so one of the very first things that happened when there was a really big spike in numbers, there was a shift from working in office to working virtually.
Right.
Because, you can only provide as good of services
Mhm.
as we are healthy.
Right.
So part of that was making sure that staff felt like they were being safe, that they were being protected. And then for community, what we've been able to do is really help in assisting through distribution of personal protective equipment
Mhm.
community members, so making sure that they have that. One of the unique things about the Bros and Convo initiative is that majority of the individuals who receive our services are making at most $18,000 or more. So at the poverty line or below poverty.
Right.
Right. And so we really had to think about how are we being able to support those individuals. So it actually exceeded beyond just providing personal protective equipment. It exceeded to being able to provide them with food. Because many of the individuals, one of the unique things about us is that we understand that at our meetings and our gatherings for our programs, they are sometimes the only times that our young men are able to get a meal, are able to access Wi-Fi, are able to have a computer. And so our gatherings are more than just them coming for a meeting. Our gatherings are really, in some ways, saving their life.
I
And
tell people Jesus fed them before he could feed them.
Mhm,
I cannot listen to you if my stomach is growling.
mhm.
I'm not going to listen because my stomach is louder than what you're saying. So to have a organization that cares about me holistically, I believe is what's more so needed in the communities now. And I think you care more than the numbers. You care about the people.
Yeah, I think you have to approach it from a place of humanity and put yourself in individual shoes. And I think that's what me and my staff have definitely done. And so being able to, excuse me, meet those basic needs of providing the personal protective equipment, providing them with food. There was we did a what we call a technology infrastructure assessment before we transition to virtual, because once again, some of our young men don't have laptops, some of our young men don't have Wi-Fi, some of them don't have unlimited data to access things on their phone. And so figuring out where we could help them, because we recognize that providing them with food, providing them with technology, providing them with personal protective equipment is so tied to their health outcomes. So those are some of the things that we did. And then from an organizational standpoint, really modifying testing activities. So being by appointment only, making sure that there were barriers. One of the great things that we have in our space is being able to sanitize and disinfect regularly. And so those were some of the more logistical things that we did to ensure that the space was and still is, up to par. In addition to making sure that we temperature check as well as do a screening for individuals, asking them, have they exhibited any symptoms? When was the last time that they were screened? And then not only that, but in the event that individuals need to find resources for COVID, we're able to direct them to those resources.
I'm going to ask if people start, because we got more people coming in.
Yeah, no problem.
Put your questions out there. We're only supposed to be a 30-minute show, but we only got 4 minutes. But I think we're going to go over because there's more. If my camera guy nods his head,
knew we were going to go over. 30 minutes is not enough time for you and I to have a conversation.
But I want the people to ask, because when I tell you Daniel is a wealth of knowledge to be such a young man and has such passion about what he believes in. If you got passion about believing in your chair that you sit on, have passion about it. Mm-hmm. And I don't take that lightly as an example to know that when people are committed, they're committed to the community that God has sent them to. And I do believe Daniel has been sent to Orlando, Florida for such a time as this to do his work for people, not only for himself, but the people that he's been assigned to.
I appreciate that.
I was going to ask you, how many do you think have come through your doors? Do you have any numbers right now?
I know in total, we've probably have provided health education to like 3,500 young men.
That's huge.
As far as linking to care, we probably are a little bit over 300 individuals that we have linked to care, whether that is PrEP, post-exposure prophylaxis, or STI treatment.
Stop right there. I want people to understand what you just said. You have educated over 3,000 individuals, 3,000 sons, somebody's nephew, somebody's husband, so they can be educated. Not only that, you link them to care so they can viral suppress if they're HIV positive. So so now they're moving forward and living a healthy life. That's huge, Daniel.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that my staff, my amazing staff, and I really try to do is we really try to see what are the needs of folks and try really to connect them to that. And so I think the beauty is we provide we empower and educate individuals that are living with HIV, but also individuals who aren't living with HIV, right? Because for some of these young men, they've never heard about PrEP, they've never heard about PEP. But even outside of that, I think one of the parts of our program that I'm most proud of is the capability building that we do. And I say capability building because a lot of times we talk about capacity building, but I really think that the work that we're doing is really helping increase individuals' capabilities, their skills. And so that's one of the things I'm most proud of is us being able to provide trainings and workshops that really recognize the leadership capabilities in so many young men, and saying, hey, if you want to sit on a board of directors, you can sit on a board of directors. These are the things that you need to have in place. If you want to be an executive director, these are the things that you need to have in place, because, you talked about passion, and I do have a lot of passion, but I think what really has blessed me as well is having that passion and people recognizing that, but also tying that in with the skills and tools to
Yeah.
increase our capability, which helps me increase the capacity
Mhm.
as a result, right? And so I think that's one of the things that I'm most proud of is that while we've been able to help so many young men live their best and their healthiest lives, we also have been able to help so many young men realize that they are the leaders, not of tomorrow, but of today.
Dang,
Um,
that's
and
oh,
that's been for me probably one of the most rewarding things about doing this is recognizing that I'm planting so many amazing seeds that are sprouting and that are growing.
teach a man, give a man a fish one, he'll eat one day. Okay,
Mhm.
you give him the fish, but if you
Mhm.
teach him how to fish, he
Yep.
can eat many days after that. And I definitely see that you are teaching a generation of how to survive successfully. Successfully. Let's move on, because we can stay there all day. We know that what, because you're big on this, injustice.
Mhm.
Injustice, what does that word mean to you? And how have you seen it be denied or
Mm.
applied incorrectly?
Injustice, what that means to me is that it is not of God. That's the simplest way, injustice, it is not of God. It is everything that God is not. If you believe in God. If you believe in another higher power, then, it's for me, I identify as a Muslim. It is not of Allah. It is everything that Allah does not represent. So that's what injustice means to me. And the ways that it shows up in so many different ways. I think we've seen this year a lot of the ways that it has shown up, whether that's through police brutality, whether that's through racial discrimination and racial violence, but also working in a nonprofit space. I've also seen the way that injustice has shown up, whether it's through microaggressions, whether it's through um, funding being given to specific structure of organizations versus another structure of organizations, the respectability politics behind it. And so I think injustice looks so many different ways. It shows up in the way of a Breonna Taylor, but it also shows up in the way of a Tony McDade who was a black trans man in Tallahassee, Florida, who was brutally murdered at the hands of police. It shows up in the way that Black and Brown folk, LGBTQ plus folk, are spoken to, are mistreated. It shows up in the way of many of us being on our jobs with other individuals and dealing with their passive aggressiveness and their microaggressions. And so I think injustice, there's such a spectrum of it, and it only and that gives us just pause to realize that we still have work to do, not only to hold law enforcement accountable, but to hold nonprofit leadership accountable, to hold philanthropic leadership accountable, to hold everyone honestly accountable for ensuring and making sure that that we are creating a world, not of equality, but a world of equity.
So, injustice. Let's shift to faith. And you
Mhm.
said something is not of God. Injustice is not of God. And you right. Somebody actually put it to me this way: Jesus was the first social worker that walked on this earth that I truly know, and they have stories to verify what he has done, from healing the sick, bringing up the dead, laying hands on people, speaking the word, and it came manifested itself. What is it that, if you could tell me, being a faith leader, if you could tell the church why How can we come together and join this fight so all bodies of people can be loved and even serve and worship under one roof? This is your time. We're gonna talk about this.
Yeah. I think of a quote by Martin Luther King Jr. that talks about injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And I think for so long we have been separated and siloed to think that because this is occurring to one group of individuals, that it can't permeate and spill over to another group, right? And so there really isn't a difference between religious liberty or religious freedom and the freedom of Black LGBTQ plus folk. It's just the name. It
Yes.
really isn't. You know, if the freedoms and the liberty of LGBTQ plus folk can be so easily snatched away,
Mm,
religious liberty and freedom can be easily snatched away. It's not immune because you're in a place of worship. No.
talk, sir.
So I think, you know, it's important for us to, I think it's important for us to recognize that when you strip everything away from us, the labels, the titles, all of that, we are human beings
Absolutely.
at the core essence of us. And we could have a conversation about at another time about how religious dogma and tradition has
Mhm.
permeated faith-based spaces to the point where there's really a disconnect from God.
Absolutely.
But I don't want the church beloveds to, you know, be under my Facebook comments. They can give me all type of hell. I won't come back or anything. But no,
Don't do it. Don't do it.
no,
Don't do it.
I won't. I promise I
But
won't.
you said
But
something, Daniel.
I think for so long we we have not been able to separate tradition and dogma from really what the core essence of being a faith believer is,
Absolutely.
right? And so that really has murkied the waters to where, you know, not being affirming and welcoming of individuals is not a it's not a spiritual issue. It's not a spiritual issue because if you come from a spiritual place, you'll recognize that you are to love anyone regardless of who they are.
Absolutely.
It's a dogma and denominational issue.
Yeah.
And I think
So
we've been able to really separate, really separate
to
the two.
I think what's going on for me, and I told this story with the Titan, and he's Titan is really speaking some truth. Come on
Yeah.
and speak on the spectrum. Come on, Daniel. It is just the name, and people can relate. I had to be checked before I was placed into this community. God had to check me as a faith leader. Who are you really representing, Sandy? Are you representing the actual institution or are you representing the creator? Because if you're representing me and who I am, you're going to love regardless of title. You're going to love regardless of personality, sexuality. My job is to teach you to love thy neighbor as thyself. And
Mhm,
if you don't have a blueprint, look at what I've done on the cross.
mhm,
That's the only blueprint I've given unto you. Anybody else doesn't matter because it can be faulted. It could be an error. But my blueprint is what I've called you to do. And it took me a minute, and I can be very transparent. It took me a minute to understand that I can walk in this and still be true to who I am.
mhm,
Meaning, I can still be a minister, I can still teach the doctrine, but teach it how God has called us to teach it and
mhm.
to be received in the LGBTQ community, in the HIV community is overwhelming because I've learned so much love. I
Yeah,
thought I had love.
but I think, you know, I think it's beautiful because, like I said, what drew me to you was really your warm energy and your humility. And I don't know if you remember, I forgot what day it was of the power of leadership, but we were at the home with sweets, and it was, I think it was like happy hour. It was either happy hour or breakfast. I can't
Okay.
think of it. And we were all, you were there with Auntie Kimberly, and I think it was
Mhm.
myself and I want to say Richard and some other folks. And I don't want to misquote what you said, but you basically said kind of what you were talking about, where you were just like, you were really auntie. You were like, listen, I know that I come from this space, but I want you to know that I love you all of you. I love the work that you are doing, and I'm here to support. And I know for me that was very, very powerful because, like I said, I come from a religious background where a lot of times your queerness, if you're living with HIV, um, whatever it is, you are shunned and you are ostracized. And so it was so beautiful to have that special moment. And I remembered that. I
I
really
think it
remember
was
that.
happy hour. And I know, I want to say the next day, it was Kim, myself, and you. And
With
Andre had
the group.
my ear. He was like, "You need to meet Daniel." I'm like, "But Daniel quiet. Daniel don't want to meet me." He was like, "You need to meet him." So the next morning, you were eating the egg. And somehow we started talking about where you were from in the country. And that was my moment to get to know you. Kim's on the phone. Yeah. She was like, "Yes, you remember that conversation." And
Yeah.
we just started talking. But when I tell you that weekend, those couple of days, I never knew love, unconditional love, until I stepped in that room and found my nephews that were so open to me. And I'm gonna say until my ignorance, because I didn't know everything. And I still don't know everything. I still don't get all the names right. I still don't get all the titles right. But I'd be like, "Okay, auntie, this is what you need to say. This is what you can't say." Because it's such a love that it's like we know where your heart is.
Hmm. Hmm.
If we know your heart, then you good with us. But if we ever see anything else, you cut. You cut.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I've learned. And I think Kim, she's online. We've learned so much being around AJ, being around Richard, being around Ian, meeting different people, because the work still has to be done. God don't care who does it.
Yeah.
He just wants the work to be done decent and in order.
Decent and in order. Yeah, I think it's so important. Like when we talk about faith and we talk about ministry, that we think about. I think about I think about Paul, and Paul, the heat that Paul caught
Talk Bible, sir. Talk
from
Bible.
the heat that Paul caught from the church in Jerusalem,
Yep.
because the church in Jerusalem said, "Oh, you going around here doing all these different things and creating all these different churches, but they're Gentiles. They culturally are different from us. They do all these different things." And Paul was like, "I'm out here doing the Lord's work." And what's the funniest thing? It was those outlying churches that fundraised and gathered money
Come on.
to support the Church of Jerusalem, because they didn't see that the traditional differences or the cultural differences. What they saw were fellow Christians
Yeah.
that were in need. So I think that's so, like, when we talk about faith and we talk about ministry, I think that is one of the many examples that we can look at, to where at the core and at the basis of it is coming from a place of love, leading with love.
One thing, since we're talking Bible, boy, you talking good. You talking good. When the conversion from Judaism and you went into Christianity,
Mhm.
the reason why the Gentiles were so excited is because they knew they were not in the lineage. They knew that their bloodline did not qualify them. But because of the Savior, because of who Jesus was, that was at the point he could say, "All can come to me, all that receive me. I don't care who you are. Once you receive me, your name is in the book of life." And I think that is what has happened to the church. We've really forgotten why he died
Mm.
for us. He died that all may come to him. regardless.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see where there is a spectrum of what sin, what you've done. Is no what's greater than the other. It's no disease that can disqualify you. He said, if you believe in me, that's all I want. And the churches caught on to that. And the Sadducees and Pharisees, they hated it because they were catching something that they didn't even know. When you go up into a house and the whole house gets saved, just because the Holy Ghost is falling, I don't have to pay for it. I
Mm.
don't have to have a certain type of degree for it. All I've got to do is receive him. And there it is, Daniel. And when you receive the love of Jesus, you can't help but to serve his people.
Mm-hmm.
You can't help it. See,
Yeah.
I done started. Forgive
No,
me.
it's okay. No, and I think it's beautiful because I think one of one of the biggest things that I have taken away from my faith and my spiritual journey is that this thing ain't exclusive. It ain't exclusive. There ain't no exclusive group that's gonna be saved. This thing ain't exclusive or elite. It's open and it's freely and it's available to all.
Yes.
And it's, I'm probably going to get in trouble with this, but just like how the Pharisees and the Sadducees were so upset with the Savior because he dismantled this elitism that they had, you've got people of all different denominations that are upset because they want it to be elite. They want it to be exclusive. They want to feel like they are the only ones that are going to make it to the kingdom. And, the unfortunate thing is the kingdom is going to be made up of so many different believers and worshipers and people that, it's
Mm.
going to blow folks' mind. We're not monolithic people, right? So why would wherever it is that we decide that we're going to go to, whether it's heaven, paradise, all those different things, be like that? No, it's going to be made up of so many people, and so I think
Absolutely.
we really have to break that exclusiveness of thinking that in our own silos that we're the only ones, we're the only ones who are going to, who are going to be, who are going to go to heaven, who are going to get caught up in the rapture, who are going to do, all of these different things. So yeah, leading with love, leading with a heart to learn, and leading with a heart to understand. And I think that's on both ends because even me, being a Black queer man, there are still things that I'm learning about my community. There's still things that I'm learning about my community in general, and so yeah, I think really when we talk about faith and we talk about ministry, we really have to look at the core essence of it
What
and
it
take
is.
all the excess
Yeah.
things off. So yeah.
And, so let's see. I love y'all so much. This is Richard. Been watching y'all from Daniel's page. I love you, Auntie. Love you, Daniel. Y'all talking real good. You better talk, Daniel. This is Titan. Speak. We all are worthy, Titan. Every last one. He did not. When Jesus died, that was it. He
Mhm,
knew who was going to receive him when he died. He knew at what condition, what state when he died, but he still died. He said, "For God so loved the world." That's everybody inclusive.
mhm.
That's,
And I
that's
would
everybody.
and I would even say, and you can check me because I'm not a minister, but I'm a minister's kid. Um, when he died, there was a partition that separated the holy place from the most holy place that was ripped.
You
And
better
I
talk, Bible.
and I talk about accessibility because what that did is, once again, that made the Savior, that made being saved accessible to all. It broke all of the tradition and the things that we, if you identify as a Christian, that you would have to do to atone for yourself. I think about the quote people are saying, well, holiness is still right, and
Right.
all of those things. We are benefiting from that veil being ripped
Absolutely,
to the
sir.
part that we can gossip with one another and go to a place of worship and not drop dead. That that we can do the things that we do and step into a sacred place and not drop dead. So I think of that image because, like you said, it's just like when Christ died, he really died to make he really died to make being saved, to being able to get to heaven accessible to everyone,
Everybody.
to every single person. And I think that's I think that's so beautiful.
And that's the thing about it. It's 7:21, and I think we're going to end with questions coming in. But you said
Okay.
it, and you've given us a visual because the curtain was rent. It was rent, and he made it. We didn't have to do no more turtle doves, no more bullets, no bulk ups, whatever. Them all of the pigeons, and it didn't have to be cast. Meaning, what level of income could
Mhm.
determine what level of blessing. He threw that out the door.
And even to us being able to have, and I'm going to use some strong words, even to us being able to have the mitigated gall to even step from the parking lot into a place of worship without even walking in with fear and trembling. That is the privilege that we have from that separation being rent.
So I want you to teach that right there. Teach what you just said with fear and trembling. What does that mean to a person that may not know Bible?
So I think it's a um before 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 Christ died, there was such um there was such a fear
Mhm.
around God and who God is. You think of the children of Israel and how God came
Absolutely.
down to them, right, in a shroud of a cloud and a storm, and how they feared God. They literally feared this entity, and how when Christ died, how in some way that fear of God was more of like it transformed into like a love and an adoration. But the
Yeah,
privilege, like I said, the privilege of just being able to step into what you consider a holy sacred place and not even think like about everything that you have done is a privilege that you get from Christ dying, because you're covered,
yeah,
right? Like you are covered, so you're able to go into that space. And so I think a lot of times people really forget um the blessing
that
uh,
is.
that has been allowed and bestowed upon us, but that same blessing that has been bestowed upon others.
All of us. And I want to make sure people know that I still reverence the essence of who God is and
Yes.
his presence. I don't take it lightly because when he falls, when he speaks, it should be everything stand at attention because
Mhm.
he's speaking. But I don't want to be so fearful that I have to forget that in spite of who I am and in spite of my wrongdoings, God still loves me enough to say, baby, you got to get it right today. But I'm
Mhm.
going to love you through it.
Mhm.
I
And like
want
you said, the fear is not, like how you may have feared like getting a beating.
Mhm.
I don't. I'm gonna speak for me. I don't feel that God wants us to fear Him in that way. God wants us to respect Him for
Absolutely.
who He is and what He is and what He continues to be and how He shows up. But He wants us to be led by love,
Yes.
to obey whatever it is that He
Absolutely.
has put in place. Because if you think about it, if you do something out of fear, you're not doing it by the conviction of your heart.
Talk, sir.
You're doing it because you're fearful of something, and so it's performative.
Mhm.
It's not really truly the essence of what you want to do. And so I may get some heat for this, but if you are serving God out of just fearfulness and not serving God out of respect and adoration
Yes.
and a love for Him, then you're just not living right. There's no other way to say it. You're just not living right because we are to be led by love. We are to be led to live a life of wanting to be saved because it's something that we want to do, not something because we are fearful of what the consequence is going to be.
I
And
hear you.
so yeah,
I hear you on that. Wow, today has been beautiful.
yeah.
It's been very much a relief to a lot of people to understand that faith had nothing to do with the church. Faith is who you are in your walk with Christ.
Mhm.
So if the church has hurt you, then let's try faith. Let's try love and let's start over. And you be the church. You be the church that you're looking for. And
Mhm.
then we'll see what that looks like. Baby, Daniel, y'all give my baby some love on this Facebook Live. Give my baby some love. I have truly enjoyed this moment.
Enjoyed this. We really, I had said we were going to get into some things, and we really got into some things. But it really has been a beautiful time with you, Auntie, talking and really having a good old kitchen table talk.
That's what I want. That's what I want. I'm excited. I can talk a little bit about it because of Ian and Titan. They don't know what they put that in my ear, but the beginning of the year, we're going to actually do a broadcast show called The Faith to Move Forward. Um, anything. So it would be just like this until we're able to go face to face. It
Mhm.
would be an opportunity to just talk about anything, but you need faith to move forward in
Yes.
anything that you do. Anything. Yes, Titan. Great job. Peace and blessings to the both of you. Baby, is there anything you want to say before we leave this beautiful place?
It's just been blessed. I would say, um, to whoever is watching and to whoever is listening, that you matter, you are loved, you are valuable. Um, I know that we've had this conversation around LGBTQ plus and HIV, but I also think it's important to bring into the space other individuals who may feel like they've been isolated. Whether it's individuals who have had a child, what they like to say out of wedlock, but I like to say had a child, whether it's individuals who are battling, emotion and mind, um, health and well-being disparities. You matter, you are loved, you are valuable. And I think sometimes this is coming from somebody who has dealt with church hurt. I think it's so easy for us to be in a place of anger and being upset and mad. I think it's even more powerful for us to harness all of that energy and create the space that we want to see.
Mm,
Um, and so, create that space, plant those seeds, do all those different things, and continue to fight the good fight, as some folks would say. So that's all I've got to say. Oh no, I'd be remiss to plug my own organization. Oh Lord. You can follow the Bros and Convo initiative on Facebook, on Instagram, and you can find us at brosandconvo.org to learn about all the amazing things that we are doing in and outside of community. And even though Giving Tuesday has passed, you are still more than welcome to give a gift of
Wait a
love.
minute, Daddy. This is my show. This is my show.
You I'll let you get your plug in. You are more than welcome to giving a gift of love, whether that is a one-time donation or a monthly donation. Your donations, 100% of them go right back into the services that we provide, and they are tax exempt to the fullest extent of the law. And that's all I've got.
That's
that's
enough. That's
that's
enough.
all I'm saying. I'm going to let you
End
let
it
you.
out. I want to thank everybody. Lisa, thank you for chiming in. Very good friend of mine that's at home recovering from sickness. Thank y'all so much. This is our first show, but it's not the last. Meet us next week. We have a powerful couple that'll be coming in by the name of Trisha and Todd Harper, who are truly valuable to the community, and they have a story of their own. It's like, how can, when you're such giving people, but when COVID hits your house, now they have to give unto you. How do you handle that? So come in tomorrow, next week. Come in next week, this Thursday, same place, same time. And Daniel, I love you. I
Love you.
love you so much. Foundations for Living again, where we bring strength, transformation to students, families, and communities. Good night, everybody, and have a good day.